Hello and welcome to Sheffield Vineyard Christmas Eve Reflection. This evening we're going to have a short story. It's a story about a man, a good man, a family man, a hard-working farmer man. He was not a Scrooge, he was kind, generous and upright in all of his dealings with others. But he just didn't believe that Jesus was born by a virgin mother and was the Son of God. It just didn't make sense. And he was too honest to pretend otherwise. He just couldn't swallow the Jesus story about God coming to earth as a man. "I'm truly sorry to distress you," he told his wife, "but I'm not going to come to church with you this Christmas Day." He said he felt like a hypocrite and he'd much rather stay at home, but that he would get the Christmas dinner started for them. And shortly after the family drove away in their car, the snow began to fall. And as he cleaned up the sitting room before starting the dinner, he was startled by a thudding sound, and then another, and another. Well, at first he thought that someone must be throwing snowballs against the house. But when he went to the front door to investigate, he found a flock of birds huddled miserably in the snow. They had been caught up in a snow flurry, and in a desperate search for shelter, they tried to fly through his living room window. Well, he couldn't just let those poor birds lie there to freeze, so he thought he might be able to direct them into his barn, where he kept a horse. And quickly he put on his coat and Wellington boots, and he walked through the deepening snow to his barn. He opened the door as wide as it would go and turned on a light so that the birds would know the way in. But the birds did not come in. He thought that some food would entice them, and so he hurried back to the house to get some breadcrumbs, and he sprinkled them on the snow. He made a trail to the yellow-lighted, wide open door of the shed. But to his dismay, the birds ignored the breadcrumbs, and he tried catching them. He tried shooing them into the shed by walking around and waving his arms, but instead they scattered in every direction, except into the warm, secure barn. And then he realized that the birds were afraid of him. To them, he reasoned, I'm a strange and terrifying creature. If only I could think of some way to let them know that they can trust me, that I'm not trying to hurt them, but to help them. But how? And he thought to himself, if only I could be a bird and talk to them, and mingle with them, and speak their language, and tell them not to be afraid. Then I can show them the way to the safe, warm barn. But I would have to be one of them, so they could hear me and see me and understand. And at that moment, the church bells began to ring. The sound was louder than the wind, and he stood there listening to the bells, pealing the glad tidings of Christmas. And he sank to his knees in the snow.